What's cracking, everyone? My name is Ryan, and today I want to talk to you guys about the CCA CRA Plus. Now, for those of you that are not affiliated with audio and its branding, I promise you I am not referring to a medical profession title when I talk about the CCA. I mean, see? CCA. All right. So the CRA Plus, as I will refer to them, are a 10mm dynamic driver IEM offering from KZ. Now, these retail in at just under $30, and you don't want to confuse these with the CRA. Now, the CRA Plus are gold, the CRA are not. They do have a different sound signature between the two, but honestly, just telling them apart by the color is probably the easiest way to do that. All right, so in typical fashion, I will tell you what you get inside the very basic box, and that is the CRA Plus, which, by the way, really quick, I wasn't sure what I was going to think about the gold when I first saw that these came in gold. It's not a natural color that I necessarily gravitate to, but I'm actually digging the color on these. Now, they're pretty hard to capture on camera because gold, it's very reflective. But yeah, I mean, I'm digging on the gold. I'm not a gold digger, but I'm digging on the gold. And so along with the IEMs, you get a pretty basic rubbery style cable that is see-through, which, by the way, makes it very difficult to see the left and right where they plug into the IEMs. In fact, I just did it by trial and error because I couldn't even read it. I didn't even think they included it. And then along with that, you do get some pretty basic silicone tips. Now you're just going to get one set of small, one set of medium, one set of large, and that's it. But for $30, I'm fine with that. I'm just not fine with the fact that this IEM has made me not be able to tell my left from my right. Right? And so spec-wise, these are, of course, 10mm dynamic drivers. They are 23.5 ohms and have a sensitivity of 111 dB per milliwatt and a frequency range of 20 hertz up to 40,000 kilohertz. Now, build-wise, these are okay. The gold on here is a gold plating on a see-through type plastic housing. Now, the gold plating, I will say, does show up fingerprints really easy. It's a glossy finish, so just note that. And then also, I could see the gold plating wearing off over time, possibly. Now, it hasn't done that to me yet. And then the ear tips that you get, they're pretty basic, but I gotta say, some of the easiest to install ear tips I've had so far, which is either good or bad, because I was taking them out of my ear at one point, and one of the tips actually started to fall off of the IEM as I was taking it out, and I almost had to call the CCA for some CRA Plus kind of help. See? It works. Seriously though, the build and comfort of this IEM was perfectly fine for the price. Now, my ears are pretty finicky with IEMs, so I did have a little bit discomfort with this, but that's very subjective, so, take that with what you will. But overall, I was very pleased with the IEM. I actually got a really good seal using the large tips out of this IEM as well. And with that out of the way, let's move on to sound. So starting out with the low end, I will say that these do extend somewhat, but they do fall off in the lower extension of the bass. Perfectly fine with me. I would say the mid to upper bass definitely has a little bit of a emphasis there, and it sounds great. There's a little bit of a slam going on there. And then as we get into the lower mids, into the normal mid-range region, I would say it's probably a little bit scooped out, and I didn't notice that right away until I actually started listening to my 560S that I'm going to be doing a review on here soon. Now, the 560S has fantastic mid-range. When I switched back to these, then I noticed, okay, yeah, that mid-range is a little bit scooped out. However, the upper mid-range into the lower treble region, I am happy to say that I feel like there is a little bit more of an emphasis there because vocalists and things sounded great on these. I like vocalist type music, and so was very happy to hear that. And then into the upper treble, probably a little bit relaxed until you get into that sparkle region, that, I don't know, probably over 10 kilohertz region. There definitely seems to be some air and sparkle up there, which I think is great. I think it makes your music a little more engaging. It makes it somewhat analytical at times, which is kind of nice if you're looking for that. So this is going to pair up with different genres, depending on what you're listening to, of course, and give that a musical, just engaging experience. And that's what I got out of these with the sound. And I'll quickly touch on stage and say that I do think these give to a little bit of a sense of stage because of that upper airiness to them, and they image perfectly fine as well. Now, I do want to do some comparisons to these to some other recent budget IEMs. I'm just not quite ready to do that yet. So you guys are going to have to wait for a future video on that. But I do want to say that listening to these and the other recent ones, things are starting to kind of blend together as far as the general tunings of them. I'm not saying whether that's good or bad. It's just something I'm noticing, and I will dive further into as I get into my comparison video. But there's still going to be some different offerings and characteristics that are going to separate these apart. And I'm going to talk about one of those here next, along with the power requirements. So I plug these in straight into my phone with just a dongle USB DAC. I had that sitting around here, but it's not here. And it sounded fine. Now, when I plugged it into my IFI Uno using the music EQ feature on that, I actually got a little bit more engaging bass out of that. Not a ton, but enough to make my music more musical, I guess. And then same thing happened with my IFI Go Bar, but I really like these on my ADI2 DAC, which honestly was no surprise. It just pairs so well with IEM. So what I'm trying to say here is, yes, these are budget IEMs, but you can pair them up to different sources to get just a little bit more out of them. And they do kind of scale up with that, which was nice. Just to be able to see and to be able to enjoy them on different sources. But as I said, straight out of the phone was perfectly fine as well. And then the last thing I'm going to mention here is gaming. So if you kind of went through my, description of sound, you're going to notice that I said a little bit of an elevation in the bass, a little bit scooped out mids, a little bit of elevation in upper treble. That equals V-shaped. And so I thought these might sound good with gaming, and they absolutely do. I've enjoyed these, and in fact, I've been trying to come up with a short list of budget IEMs for gaming because IEMs are starting to get into that space. These definitely make the list for that, and I will talk about that further, again, in a future video. All right, so those are my thoughts on the CRA Plus. I thank you guys for watching, and please stay tuned because I will be doing that video here soon, comparing these with other budget IEMs. But until then, I will CCA you in the next one.